Well, I'm going to start getting the ALZRC 380 built, but I do know that I'm probably going to get rid of the cyclic servos. I have to keep this tail one because I do need that, but the cyclics I don't need. I'm going to use, so this is my crashed 420. I'm going to use the KSTs off of that. They just have 4 screws in the back here. They take the 1.5 millimeter. Alright, we got those off of that frame. So most of this stuff I would just be doing strictly with my drivers. So we just, you can actually see right here, there's a bit of a lip, and you can see that this bearing actually sticks up a little bit. Like I said, I just take the screw and I just dip it right in the Loctite. Drop my top bearing there. Alright, we can go ahead and cinch them down now. You are screwing really hard steel into aluminum. The reason you're using Loctite is so that they stay. Just make a nice firm tighten. You definitely do not have to over crank it. Because I use so much Loctite, a lot of times I'll just do this just to clean up where it was coming over a little bit. So here's the main shaft. This is the bottom of the shaft. You can tell because the hole is so close to the bottom. This is where your head will mount, your head block. This is the collar. Rub screw does not feel like it has any Loctite on it at all, so we will definitely have to put some Loctite on it. So just take it out, put some on it, and put her back in. It looks like there's 2 of them, so one on each side. So first thing we want to do with this is the gear that goes, uses the belt to go back to the tail. This is your main, I guess basically it's a Jesus bolt at the bottom. So I do like to check these, even though you know, they're pre-installed. There is no Loctite on that at all, so you definitely need to be aware of that. Just because stuff is together doesn't mean that it's Loctited. So we got that done. So here's our main drive gear. Definitely want to check these, and they feel like they have nothing on them. Yeah, they are bone dry. You wind up using a lot of Loctite on helicopters. Okay, that's good. I'm going to use my 420 as reference, but what I'm looking at here is this. Okay, so I'm just making sure the screws go facing upward. Let's get the bottom Jesus bolt in here. Again, hit it with some Loctite. Definitely a generous amount on these. That's going to go all the way through. Okay, so we're going to loosen this collar a little bit because it's actually tight enough that it was catching. Also make sure that it's moving this way and it catches that way. So the motor is going to turn this way, the main drive gear, and that's actually making it turn like this, which is clockwise, which is what we want, because your main rotor goes clockwise and your tail rotor goes counterclockwise. And if you'll see here too on the main shaft, they cut away a little bit of an indentation. That's actually for this, so that when you put your set screws in, they have a little channel, and that's good because that way if they become slightly loose, you are not going to be up shit creek completely. Let's go ahead and get the servo mounts on here. And as you can see here on this piece, that's how it is. You want it to go just like that. Alright, we got all three of them installed. That's the configuration that it looks like. So next thing that I'm going to install is right here. This is going to be the anti-rotation bar. We're just going to go with the stock ALZRC ones. So the only thing that you really have to do to get these to fit is just the rear one. You just got to cut off one top part of an eyelet. And that way it doesn't hit the anti-rotation bar at all. Something that I do with my helis, I don't know if you can see it down in here, but I use a zip tie that goes around the bearing block, and I use it so that all of my wires come right to the center nicely, and they stay out of the way of your servo arms. I mean, most of the time, even if your wires are right here, your servo arm is just going to push it out of the way, and it's fine usually, but I like them to be completely out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and pop these links. These are brand new ones. The SAB ones already had some on it. ALZRC came with brand new ones, so I'm going to use them. And we're just going to pop them onto the servo horn. And now I can reinstall the Swash again. So I prefer to go ahead and get this just slightly started on here and then angle it all the way down and off to the side a little bit. And then you just bring your servo up a little bit. Squish it down in there. And then you're going to be able to go right into the anti-rotation bar. And your Swash is on. So we'll go ahead and pop all these links on. So when you put them on, you just put this side over here, this side over here. You just want to put it behind the ball like that. And then these two prongs will push on it and get it snapped on there. I forgot I had to take the swash plate back off because these all need Loctited. Ball link pliers. And we got the rear one. And now, when your arms are completely centered, that should be a level swash plate. Let's take a look at this head. You can see here on these arms, this one is going into plastic, so you do not obviously need to Loctite that. But this one right here is going into the metal head. Okay, we got those two Loctited. And go ahead and take our Jesus bolt out here. We're going to go ahead and take these out of the blade grips. Now when you take apart a head, or anyway, tightening and loosening these two screws, realize the feathering shaft is just one shaft in the center and it's all bearings, so as soon as you move one, the other one is just going to sit there and spin, so you have to have a wrench on both sides. So myself, what I do is I use an Allen key and then a hex driver. So we'll go in here and grab it. But I do need to take the blade grip off because I almost forgot something. So we want to go through it right here, crack that bolt loose. Bring it out of there, and then we want to hit it with Loctite. Put it right back in there. Again, you really do need to snug it pretty well, but be careful. You're not going to worry about stripping the hex of the screw, you're going to worry about stripping the threads inside the aluminum. So that one's done. Now let's get this one. So just so that you can see what all there is, there's not really that much in here. You have your race, your thrust bearing. Again, the open side of the bearings goes that way towards the head. So it would sit like this inside the blade grip. And then you have your other race for the rear side, and then a copper washer, and then your bearing. So for this little monster, we're going to wrap cloth around this, and then we're going to clamp it with vice grips. Okay, that should be enough. Alright, we got it cracked free. We're going to go ahead and put Loctite in it. Again, you really want to be generous on the Loctite on these. There's only one thing that I will caution you about the Loctite on the feathering shaft, and I'll show you here in a second. So I'm just going to stab it right down in the stuff that was on my table here. Get that all pushed back up to the top. That's our thrust bearing assembly. This is the grip that this one came from. put that all the way through. So again, got a nice thrust bearing there. Then we're going to put it through the head. And just FYI, inside of your head there's rubber O-rings, dampers. That's what kind of, those do wear out every now and again, and you have to replace them. Not super often though. Okay, that's aligned correctly. So generally what I like to do, so that I don't get Loctite all into my thrust bearing inside of this blade grip right here. So I'll actually take a screwdriver or a hex driver, and I'll get a bunch on the tip of my hex driver, and I actually put it in here so that it's already installed, and you don't have to worry about it getting on the outside where the bearings are. So now we're going to put this back on here. Oops, it actually goes like so. And now we can just put our screw straight in. We don't have to put Loctite on our screw. Kind of lean it to the side. Get that in there. Definitely don't cross-thread it. Jesus. So once I get it a little bit snug, then I'll switch. I switch it out and go back to being this way like I did to originally break it loose. And then I just give it that nice tight tug. Now, these particular screws have a pretty deep socket, and they're a 2.5 millimeter. These particular ones, I torque the shit out of them. So on all of my helicopters, I make sure that they are extremely tight and very well Loctited, because that's gonna mess up the balance of everything. If this loosens up a little bit, you're gonna have play. You know, when you put this thing together, you should have literally zero play. I mean, there's nothing. All that they can do is go up and down. There is no play, and that's how we want it. So now we can install it. So we'll take this and we'll just put it right in here. Then the ones that go in the blade grips. So we got it lined up. Push it right on through. It's the same exact bolt that real helicopters have that holds their entire head assembly on. Called the Jesus bolt as well, because if it breaks, you'll be praying to God. So we got that one snapped on. All right, let's go ahead and assemble our links that go from here to the blade grip, right here and here. So again, one side is reverse threaded. One-way bearing is working properly so that we can auto rotate. Looking good. To me, this is the pain in the ass of the build, I want to say. It's not really the bulk of the build, but it's the stuff that really needs to be precise. So I usually do this first, and then I do the frame around it. That's just me.